Hey guys, how are you? It's Brad Sundberg in the studio with MJ. We have the absolute privilege today of being in Marshmellow Skies Studio in Westlake Village, California, and I've got Claus Trelby, a Danish, an old Danish. I'm Swedish,
There you
so I
go.
can
A
call
little
you a Danish.
Scandinavian
Yeah, a
blood
little
going on.
Scandinavian blood going on here in audio. Good to see you, Claus.
Likewise, man.
So this is your playground. You're in here day after day after day.
Uh-huh.
Not a bad place to hang out.
I love it, man. I mean, you can't complain going to work listening to music.
Absolutely not. Claus just played me a little clip of Fleetwood Mac. Your partner, Ken Caillat, produced and recorded
Yeah, he
Fleetwood
was.
Mac.
So Ken was the original engineer producer of Fleetwood Mac, Rumors, Tusk, Mirage, and obviously did a whole bunch of live stuff with them and all artists back in the day.
Just some small projects.
Yeah, had
Just
a little bit of fun with people here and there. I believe he worked a little bit with MJ as well.
Yep.
Along the way.
And I don't want to dominate, but Rumors really did have a deep impact on me. I was a young kid, and man, that record sounded good. So when did Rumors come out?
Early 70s. I hate to put a year on
early 70s. Okay, because I probably heard it, I want to say around 75.
Yeah, I think it wasn't it a 73, 74?
Yeah, I was I was a kid living in Santa Cruz, California, and I still remember being at somebody's house and they played Rumors, and I was like, this is really way before Thriller.
Yeah.
And so Rumors had a deep impact. Of course, Dark Side of the Moon, then Rumors, then Thriller. There
was a lot of really exciting music going on there in that early 70s era.
Man.
There was a lot of progression in music, a lot of playing around, quite frankly, because the budgets were there for them to play. I mean, Rumors took a year to record. I mean, what artist gets a year in a professional studio nowadays for an album, right?
Stevie did, but so you and Ken have been taking a lot of these beautiful masters and turning them into immersive audio.
Correct.
You just played me something, and I'm looking around the room here. I see 6 speakers overhead. I see 5 in the front and 2 on the side.
Yeah, so this speaker system is what's called a 916. So 9 distinct channels on the horizontal, 1 distinct channel going to 2 cabinets on the sub, and then 6 above.
Okay. Now, in the early part of my career, I recorded and mixed music. In the latter part of my career, I built home theaters. So this is interesting to me because who is this for? Is this for the guy that wants to have this many speakers in his room?
Or if I can take 2 minutes and give you a little bit of
Please.
history. So Ken and I have been working on and off for the last 25 years. And one of the early endeavors we had was a company called 5.1 Entertainment Group about 20 years ago. I was his chief engineer back then too. And so we built the first 9624 digital workflow 5.1 recording and mixing rooms.
Okay.
And got into creating DVD audio and Super Audio CD. Super exciting. High sample rates to the consumer, 5.1 immersive music, and everybody who heard it loved it. The problem back then was we were really mixing to the 1 or 2% of people that could build a home theater.
Right.
So even though the labels put a lot of effort into it over the course of 5-10 years, it never survived. It stayed with the movies.
And this would have been in the late 90s?
That was early 2000s.
Okay.
Yeah, about 20 years ago.
Yep.
And so we even had a label. We signed bands. We recorded music from the ground up for immersive and stuff like that. So Ken and I were disappointed back then that it didn't survive because Ken and I both fell in love with the concept of immersive music. Immersive for the movies, then went 7.1 and 9.1, and then all of a sudden Dolby Atmos came around and took over the movie scene. And just like before, what happened in the movies, we then adapted to music.
Right.
So there are many different ways of delivering immersive music to the consumer, but the big boy on the field is Dolby Atmos.
Right.
You have DTS:X, Oro 360, Sony 360, and now YouTube is going to be featuring what's called Eclipse Audio, developed by Google and Samsung.
Okay.
So, but that's just a different color car for getting the audio from here to the listener.
Right.
So why do we think it might survive today? Well, you have probably listened to it without knowing it. This concept both falls down to true stereo, but it also falls down to what's called binaural.
Okay.
And if you buy a brand new iPhone, open up Apple Music, and hit play on a song, if there is a Dolby Atmos track, it will default to the Dolby Atmos track before the stereo track.
Okay.
Even when you listen to it on headphones.
Okay.
And what you will then hear is the spatial audio version in headphones of what you just heard on speakers.
And that's what Apple calls spatial audio,
That's
right?
what they call spatial audio.
Okay.
It's based on the Dolby Atmos platform, but Apple obviously have to put their special sauce on it. So when it comes back to you on headphones, it is technically spatial audio, and I don't think it's actually a Dolby Atmos feed on headphones.
Okay.
But regardless, Tidal, Amazon Music, they're using Dolby Atmos all the way through the Dolby Atmos binaural renderer, et cetera, et cetera. So you are hearing that binaural feed.
Right.
And so people are enjoying it. It gives you a little bit more sense of space. Some artists will go, wait a second, I worked on my stereo mix for 2 months and I spent a week on my Dolby Atmos mix, and that's the default. Well, it's just it's a button click away, and then it'll default to stereo over Dolby Atmos. But brand new out of the box, it's actually defaulted to Dolby Atmos or spatial music.
Okay. So what about the guy that wants to do this? I mean, whether it's on a smaller scale, he wants to put up some clip speakers, some B&Ws.
Yeah.
What is someone like me supposed to use to decode all this?
Well, decoding wise, in the studio, so there's two sides to the workflow, right? There's the professional side, the studio side, and then there's the consumer side.
Right.
On the consumer side, a soundbar, a small home theater, most TVs will decode Dolby Atmos. And the advantage of the newer immersive formats is that it knows the amount of speakers it's got, and then it decodes the format to fit the environment on the consumer side.
Okay.
On the professional side, I mean, I work Pro Tools, but you could do it in Logic and all the other DAWs. It has buzzing all the way up to 916 and more. You could do ambisonics and stuff like that. And yeah, I got a 916 system. That's normally the biggest that you'll see in a music facility. Most people will use a 714 system where you have 7 and 4, right?
Which is much more traditional in home theater world.
Exactly. And when I talk to, I've spoken to like MIT and UCLA and artists and producers, I always say, look, when you're creating your art, I know it's in your living room, on your laptop nowadays, but a lot of times you will go into a studio to do overdubs and refining and stuff like that. And I always tell them, go to a place that has an immersive control room. It doesn't have to be this, but just 5.1. Because the inspiration to the artist I find is very, very different when we do albums here. Hey, let's double this thing up. Let's do another vocal. Because all of a sudden the space,
you can place things.
Yeah, the canvas is bigger. And when it comes to the end, I still do dedicated stereo and dedicated immersive mixes. You can always take stuff out of the stereo mix. But it's much harder to work through the process of stereo at the end, then finding out you also have to deliver an immersive mix to your label, and then going backwards and maybe saying, oh, wouldn't it be great if? Right. So I really think that being in an immersive room, even if it's just 5.1, is it's a great inspiration to both producers and artists.
Okay. You just played me Rihanna in full immersive.
Yeah, that was in Dolby Atmos mix.
Dolby Atmos, that was 916, right? So how, if somebody has a car, I know a lot of
new cars have Dolby Atmos in them.
Dolby Atmos in. So I should get a pretty similar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we've had the Cadillacs. We do events here, so hence why we met today.
Yeah.
And we have events where the cars arrive, and then people and engineers and artists can go and they can listen in the car and listen to mixes
and go back and forth.
And go back and forth, so that you can listen to you can listen to the mix in here where it was mixed. Then you can listen to it out in the main space on a sound bar.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a typical setup. I just bought a new TV. It's Super Bowl time. I need a sound bar, right? And then we have a home theater set up next door. And then we have the cars. So you can hear the same music in different spaces. And look, I built it that way so that I have a point of reference. That is the biggest hurdle with this is translation. A lot of people will tweak their studio to sound perfect to them, but it's always been about how does it translate into the real world, right? So
this is a purpose-built facility. I'm putting the pieces together. I'm not coming in like the expert. So this is a purpose-built facility where you're doing the mixing in here, but then you can bring the client into the theater, listen to it on the sound bar, listen to it just on a traditional stereo pair of speakers. That's so fascinating.
Yeah, we built this room. You're sitting in an old loading dock.
Okay.
And we did a room within a room, purpose-built for immersive audio. And actually, to begin with, we were just going to mix because everybody was mixing Dolby Atmos and stuff like that. But then we found out slowly that we were also going to be creating music. So we built a live room. Actually, George Osberger, who is the acoustician that worked with Ken on The Village, came out of retirement and helped us with our little live room out there. Yeah, he came out here for a couple of days.
How's he doing?
He's doing good. He's getting up there.
He's got to be up in years.
Yeah, everybody's getting a little more seasoned day by day, right?
Sure. Bruce Swedin's favorite speakers were Augsburgers.
Yeah.
He lived just a few miles from here, you know.
Yep,
and
exactly.
He had Augsburgers in his home theater.
Yeah, but he came out and spent a couple of days with us.
Bruce did?
George did. Yeah,
okay.
I think he's in his 80s now.
He's gotta be.
Yeah.
This is it's purpose built, and I don't want to say it's a small market, but it's so unique. It's a very unique market. What advice would you give to somebody that's looking about going into the music industry? They want to mix immersive audio. Do you see the industry going this way?
Yeah, I think it's already is. I mean, all the major labels are now requiring a Dolby Atmos mix to be delivered as part of your assets when you turn in an album. Okay. It's actually a requisite now. And it's because a lot of people only hear on headphones. It sounds great, it sounds fine, but then what you just experienced, you can experience in a home theater or close to in a soundbar as long as you have physical rear satellites. And
doesn't sound as good as this.
It rolled out. Apple put a lot of money into trying to get Dolby Atmos to succeed 3, 4, 5 years ago. They kind of started putting a lot of money into remixing classic albums, etc. That's not happening anymore. I think the next paradigm shift is happening in January of next year. That's when YouTube and Samsung and some of the other hardware manufacturers are going to roll out Eclipse audio. Honestly, it's just a different flavor of Dolby Atmos.
Sure.
It's just another vehicle, and that is the vehicle that YouTube will use. That means now all of a sudden you have millions of creators being let loose playing with immersive audio technology. And it'll be fun, scary, and exciting to see what people come up with, right? We're creating initial content to demo the format for Google and Samsung and other hardware manufacturers, so that hopefully at CES there will be demos showing what that can be. And it's a 714 system. It decodes in your TV and plays back through your soundbar. It's an open source format, so there's no licensing cost, which is why I think it'll be the next little logo that's on your TV.
Right.
We all have these 15,000 little logos on the box, right? It'll be the new one, and I think it'll distribute quick because it's open source without license. And we've had done a lot of exciting stuff, everything from EDM music to hyper-realistic mixes. I've worked with the producer that did Tiny Desk for 10 years, and he's now out doing a different project where he's recording on location with local bands in local venues. And I'm creating mixes that puts you in situ of that experience.
Okay.
Right? So it's not about making it pretty, it's about making it sound like you're there, kind of thing. And it's those type of experiences I think will really take off and put the sense of immersive audio through on a platform like YouTube.
Okay. Is there an application for this in live?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, EDM concerts, we just had
raves and EDMs are using it. Obviously, the Sphere in Vegas is a huge hit, but that's a proprietary system, but it's still the same concept and goal is to put you inside of the audio of the dome, right? I know there's, especially in Europe, there's some concert venues that are creating immersive spaces, especially for dance music.
Okay.
And over here in the US, they're a little bit behind, but one of my project managers and partners in the Google project, Kevin, and I are also working on helping DJs create immersive stems. So rather than sending stereo stems out of your DJ equipment, you're going to be sending immersive stems of your mix out. So you can actually mix a dance performance live in immersive.
Right.
And L Acoustics, which is one of the biggest companies that does speaker systems live, they have their own system for creating immersive experiences with their speaker systems. So it's slow to adapt because that's a big investment, right? Who pays for the upfront, etc. But that is happening, and the artists are pushing for it.
Okay. Is this being taught anywhere? I do a lot of work with Abbey Road Institute and SAE Institute, and I should have some insight, and I did.
It is. I believe most of it is on the curriculum. Most of the school. I mean, I went and spoke at UCLA. I know that their school is, but it's a side of the film side, right? A lot of it is so here's the technology, and you can also use it for music, and then they pull in the music kids and listen as well. But it is on the professional side of mixing music, especially on the mixing side. It's there. It's being used. All the major mastering guys, Romo and Lursen and all those guys are all mastering in immersive and stuff like that. So.
You know, the first time I heard true immersive audio was, you mentioned Quincy Jones. Quincy and I went to a demo at USC.
Oh, okay.
This was years ago. I'm going to say it was around 1999, 2000, something like that. And we went into a dark room and it had 22 speakers. And it was the ping pong ball demo. I don't know if you've heard that one. And and it was kind of crazy and kind of cool. And it was a guy by the name of Tom that did the demo for us. And then afterwards, I figured out that it was Thomas Holman of THX.
Yeah.
So I think he's been certainly on the cutting edge of this. Is he still?
It's always movies first.
Oh, yeah.
So Dolby was in theaters first. And if you look at a movie theater, you have, where I have a 916 system, they have a 31 by 11 by God knows how many speakers they'll have, right? And then they work in what's called arrays, right? So there's multiple speakers that will translate these objects, because we're now doing object-based mixing rather than linear mixing.
Right.
So movie theaters have been built for this before. It's all the technology, Dolby, they roll it out in the theaters, and then they need to find another market, and then they get the labels on board, and then we start using it for music. So it's not a surprise that the early demos, that was also back when you had to pay an arm and a leg to be THX certified. It's even for music, right? So yeah, we had. I remember having to go through getting THX certification on our rooms and stuff like that. Yeah, that's no longer the case. Dolby does come out and help with calibration. There's something called the Dolby curve that you can choose to mix on or not. It's a big controversy in between mixing and mastering engineers if you're mixing with your speakers on a curve or not. I have the capability to turn it on and off, so I can work both. And
fascinating. I could go on and on, but I've got to be respectful of your time.
Anytime.
But this is fantastic. Any final thoughts? Where we've kind of covered, but where do you see this going? Do you see
I think it's
immersive
happening.
Okay.
I think I honestly
compared
I see it
to
happening.
20 some odd years ago?
DVD audio and super audio CD became a niche, and very few people ended up keeping it. There's still people today that wish they could get their super audio CD with high resolution stereo, et cetera, et cetera.
But that's a pretty small.
That's a very small niche group, right? I think, especially when, okay, so what democratizes this type of audio? It's really what you're asking. How does this reach the masses?
Right.
All soundbars can do it.
Yep.
I mean, look at any soundbar. If you spend
the
more than
Sonos
$500, there's Dolby Atmos in one way or the other. All the TVs are set up for it. So the thing is that
you're not going to get this same experience.
No, obviously there's levels off.
Right.
If you say this is the top level experience, a home theater is a step down from that.
Right.
But you will be super surprised what an experience a soundbar with 2 satellite speakers can give you in a house.
Right.
It is much more than just stereo. I mean, it's like remember when we went from standard definition to high definition?
Sure.
Once you hear it, and you tell me you just heard it.
Yeah.
Once you hear it, I think people go, I get it.
Right.
The problem is people need to know it exists, and that's why I am excited that YouTube is now going to roll out with an immersive format, because all the kids and stuff like that, it's going to start rolling out. You're going to start having creators that's going to create stuff we didn't even think of. You know,
it's a much easier delivery method than going to the DVD store and spending $26.
And it's not just your Netflix movie with a thing flying overhead, right? That is still a novelty when it's movies in the home at home on a soundbar. But I think if you sit on your TV and watch YouTube, and then all of a sudden your soundbar starting doing stuff it didn't do yesterday, I think that is when people start waking up.
Amazing.
Yeah,
this is fantastic. Thank you, my friend.
Anytime.
Enjoyed the chat.
Anytime.
Thank you, guys. Have a great week, and stay with us in the studio. Hope to see you soon. Take care.